Hello. Hello.
Hello,
Hi. Hi. How are you?
good, and you?
I'm amazing. I'm amazing. Uh,
Uh, Dear?
your over just ended and everyone is spamming your name in the chat. I think we have from people from B-side Missouri as well. So you would be joining them live. So they are also excited.
Thank you. I think the voice is clear, right? And the cam is also clear.
Yes, 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 yes. Your voice and camera is amazing. It's fine.
I will open the YouTube in my phone so I can see if there are any questions during my session, so I can answer it directly.
Sure, sure. No worries. Even if you want me, I can ping you up after you complete your session, and then we can have the question and doubts.
Yes, that would be great. That would be great. First, I want to thank Hack with India for hosting me and for that great session. Also, Alwa did a great session that I even get excited when I was watching his session. Great effort, Alwa, as always. He is doing his best as always.
Yes.
Today, I will talk about iOS hacking and how to break iOS apps, ASP apps, which honestly, a lot of new bug bounty hunter or mentester ignore iOS apps and ASP apps because they think it is hard apps to break, but you will see in my session that it's very easy app. My session will have a real world scenario and will have a real POCs and reports from my bug bounty and my bin test. And trust me, you'll enjoy the session, but not like Arwa session. It's the best Arwa I know. Also, thanks for the Indian community. Honestly, I love the Indian community because every time I went to India, I have the great hospitality and good people, smart people, kind people. Also, I can see the future with the Indian people because they have great minds. They think different from the rest of the world. So when Hack with India invited me to this session, I was so happy. I said, "You can remember this. Anything for the Indian community." As I told you, because I went to Ahmedabad B-side 2 times and I was happy how the Indian people communicate, how they are talking, the respect that they are showing that I never saw in other around the world, any place. Also, I'm happy to annoy that I'm going to B-side Missouri in April, I think, and I really hope that we can meet there also and spend some time together.
Definitely.
Now I will my session. I will stop my webcam so the picture could be clear. Okay, let's start. Just a second. And is the picture is it clear? The slides?
No, your slide not live yet.
I forgot to show my screen. So sure. Just a second. Mhm.
Yes, it's live now.
Okay, is it clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, let's start. I hope you will enjoy this session. Today I'm talking about breaking IIS web infrastructure and apps, ASP apps, and why this ASP apps is my favorite target because it's different than the more people think that it is hard to break or it is impossible to break. Honestly, it's easy. I made about above half a million US dollars as bounty just from the iOS apps that everyone ignore. So who I am? I'm Abdullah Al-Mahamid, known as HackerXOO7, sometimes as HX007, a full-time bug bounty hunter and pentester, bug cloud top 50, P1 warrior rank top 10, with more than 200 B1 in bug cloud. Speaker at B-side Ahmedabad 2 times, PhDs and Black Hat Middle East, Hacker Cup winner 2022, 2023, and 2025. All of them with, of course, my best friend Arwa. Halo of Fame of Meta, Mail RU, X, etc. Is the voice clear? Great. And
Yes,
the slide
yes,
is clear.
your voice is great. Yeah.
Great. Great. So today we are talking about six topic. First topic is mastering ASP fuzzing because I saw a lot of hunters, especially the beginner, are fuzzing for just ASPX extension when they are dealing with the ASP apps, and this is a big mistake. Honestly, we'll see this in the next slides. Also, we're talking about ASP endpoint that unfortunately a lot of hunters ignore, like OOBG debugging XML web services. A lot of hunters that I saw when they are fuzzing, they ignore this path, and honestly, they can find a very easy one using those paths. Also, we are talking about interesting topic called abusing ASP session ID for unauthorized access. Also, we have something I never saw anyone talking about, which is bypassing WAF with something I call ASP.NET cookieless session IDs. Last but not least, uncovering secret in ASP.NET JavaScript files, because also I saw a lot of hunters ignore JavaScript files when it comes to ASP apps. They just focus in PHP. They find JavaScript in PHP. They will test that JavaScript, but when it comes to ASP apps, they will ignore it. Also, this is a big mistake. And last, finally, we have my unique topic, which I called it break authentication with unique path manipulation, and you will see it in the next slides. First, let's start with mastering ASP fuzzing. So, as I told you, there are a lot of hunters ignore fuzzing for other file extension. They are just fuzz for ASPX, but we have a lot of different file extension to fuzz for. For example, we can fuzz for XML, for TXT, for zip file, for 7Z, for DLL, HX, ASMX, CVC, HTML, HTM, which is also a special case, we'll see, and GS, and finally JSON. So when we are fuzzing for 7Z, what the files that we can find, for example, I found file called pin.7z, which have the whole DLL files for that app. Doing source code review, we found critical SQL injection, RC, and authentication bypass. So when you have the whole source code for that app or that website, you can get a lot of interesting vulnerabilities, because doing source code review will make things easy for the bug bounty hunter. Also, zip file, we can find api.zip, which was having the logs for that API calls, which give us very sensitive information like authentication token, GWT, etc. And we have www.zip, which have the source code of the website. Also, finally, we have DLL, which, like, for example, we found web.dll, which have the source code of the panel to login. We have also HTM and HTML, for example, login.htm, which we'll talk about it. We have example also txt, like accesses to txt, JSON app setting.json. We have AHX, like upload handler.ahx, and ASMX, like file manager.asmx, CVC services 1.cvc. Let's take a real world scenario as always. The first picture is a point about 10K from simple file www.zip, which having the source code of the website, PII information like IDs picture, passport picture, and the web config, which have the view state keys, which lead to RC. The second picture is for login.htm, not HTML, just login.htm, which was having the username and the password. As you can see, password SSN number. I hide the value because it was working values and I was able to access the admin panel. The next picture is for accesses.txt, which having a username and password. As you can see here, admin tool and the password for a panel called bitnet, which give us full access to that panel. Finally, we have file manager slash file manager.asmx, which have local file inclusion and ASP apps, which give us local file inclusion. And using that, we have access to web config. Using the web config, we find the machine key and we have able to escalate it to full RC. So here's the interesting thing that if you are working in an app that is behind Akami, for example, the FIS Global, or also Dell, when you are fuzzing, you will have a lot of problem. You can't fuzz because it's behind Akami. The Akami will give you 403. You will get a lot of blocks. So most of hunters will stop fuzzing when it's come to the Akami or WAFs. But I have two methods to bypass this. We have AWS IP rotation, which give you a unique IP or new IP for each request. For example, request 1 will have IP1, request 2 will have IP2, request 3 will have IP3. All of them will bypass the Akami because the Akami is IP based, so it will block based on the IP. By this way, we'll able to bypass the Akami. It is the fast AWS IP rotation. It's a fast way. It will give you about 1,000 requests per second, but unfortunately, it's so expensive. Also, there is another way, which is we call rotating proxy providers. It works as the AWS IP rotation. It will give you unique IP, fresh IP for each request, but it's slow, a little bit slow. It's about uh, let's say 500 requests per second, which is sometimes good, but it's less expensive. Next topic, we have the SP endpoint that everyone miss. As I told you, there are a lot of paths and directories. Unfortunately, a lot of hunter they ignore because they think they are not useful or they don't have sensitive files, but it is a big mistake. We'll see in the next slide. For example, the first directory, it's called OOBG debugging. I know a lot of hunters, when they are fuzzing for ASP apps, they will find that directory and unfortunately will ignore it. So let's talk about OOBG directory. OOBG directory, what is? It is an generated by Visual Studio when they are building the app, that directory. It contains three important files: DLL, XML, CS. What is the impact? These files could contain the full source code of the website. If you want to see a real world scenario or example, you can use simple talk in Google, entitle index of AOBG, and trust me, you'll find something will shock you because there's a lot of sensitive files that we have been ignored before and didn't fuzz for. So how to fuzz inside that directory? We fuzz for three important extensions. We'll fuzz for DLL, we'll fuzz for XML, we'll fuzz for TXT. You fuzz but you didn't find any file, you can use this trick, appname.dll. For example, we have admin.target.com /obg/debugging. We can try admin.dll or admin.login.dll. If you can use the IS short name vulnerabilities that all we talked about, it will give you a great result. What file we expect to find? We can find webdll, webconfig, and webxml. Webdll will have the source code of the website. Webconfig will have the copy of the web config, which we can get very critical and sensitive information like API tokens, how to communicate with the API. Sometimes we can find the machine key to give us RC. And also we have web.xml, which also a copy of web config.txt. Second, we have web services. As always, what is the web services directory? It's a folder when developer host their COOP or WSF services for API and backend communication. Why it's risky? Because it's communicate with the database sometimes, and sometimes with the system, and sometimes with the business logics, which could give you a critical impact. So what is the impact if you find something in web services? So first, if it interact with the system, we can get RC by file uploading, or we can get local file inclusion if it include files, or if it interact with the database or the API, we can get account takeover by changing the passwords. Also, if it interact with the database, we can get SQL injection. And we'll see VOCs in the next slides. So how to fuzz inside web services? We'll fuzz for two important extensions, ASMX and CVC extension. Also, if you fuzzed and you didn't find any folder or any file, we can use the same trick like the OBJ debugging. We can try to fuzz services to the extension, which is ASMX and CVC. App name services dot extension. For example, if we have admin.target.com, we can try admin.services, admin.login.services, or for example, app name.extension like admin.asmx or CVC. We can also use IS short name vulnerability. If it exists, it will also give you a great result, will make the fuzzing easier. What file we expected to find? We can find login.asmx, which could give you authentication bypass. We can find admin.asmx, which could give you access to all the admin functions. File transfer services.cvc, which could give you local file inclusion by including file, or RC by uploading malicious files. Finally, we have XML directory. What is the XML directories and why it use? For example, in a small example, let's imagine that you are admin in the panel and you wanna export all the user or all the customers accounts, and you wanna move it to another panel. So a lot of panels have function to export the users data as XML. So when you export the user data, including their IDs, username, emails, password, phone numbers, they will export it as user.xml in the XML directory. Or another example, if you want to import the opposite, import users for your panel, you will import XML file or zip file that in the XML directory. So if the attacker was able to access this imported file or exported file, he will get a critical impact. He will get all the user data, including plain text password. Why it's risky? As I told you, XML files could contain sensitive information. Also, we have XSL files, which could contain how the API works and how to communicate with the backend. And zip extension could get config data, like as I told you, imported or exported information. But the impact, it could leak the database connection, API endpoint, user data, and internal logics. How to fuzz inside XML directory? As always, we'll fuzz for zip file extension, we'll fuzz for XML extension, we'll fuzz for XSL extension. Also, we'll use OS short name vulnerability if it was possible. What file we can find? Examples, config.xml, XML, export.zip, login.xsl. And as always, a real world scenario. It's a story for a bounty. We got about $20,000 US from single XSL file. First, while I'm fuzzing, by the way, it's ASP app. While I fuzzing, I found endpoint called support login.htm. And I told you before, we should fuzz for HTML extension. So as you can see here in the support login.htm, it asks for username and password, and it sends the request for support auth.aspx. So from the endpoint, you can know or you can guess the function for that endpoint is allow the user, the support agent, to log in into the panel as support to fix a problem for the users. So after a lot of testing, default username, default password, SQL injection, try to authentication by pass for support to the SPX, I didn't find any vulnerabilities. So here's a good advice that if you find something that you feel it's interesting or you feel it's have a bug, you can put it as a note so you can back to it after 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. Because you are a hacker, you can already know that if you find endpoint, you can know that endpoint is vulnerable, but you didn't have the whole image. So just keep it as a note. Maybe someday you will get back to that endpoint. So that endpoint, I put it as a note because I tried many things to bypass the authentication, nothing worked. So as I told you, I leave it as a note and I continue my fuzz. I found XML directory and I fuzz for XSL extension. As you can see here, while fuzzing for XSL extension that XML, you can see here we have forget password.xsl, we have default.xsl, header.xsl, about.xsl. And you can know that each XSL file is a reference for ASPX files. For example, forget password.xsl is a reference for forget password.aspx. Default.xsl is a reference for default.aspx, and etc. for about.xsl, menu.xsl. All them is a reference for ASPX files. As you can see here, when I opened the support.xsl, if you remember, we have support.aspx, and we didn't find any bug because we didn't have the whole picture of it. Maybe there is hidden parameters. So when I found default.xsl, I thought we can find the XSL file for support.auth. So I tried XML support.auth, support auth.xsl, and when I opened the file, I was shocked. As you can see here, it gives us how this endpoint works. You can see it send post request for support auth.aspx. Also, it take a lot of parameter like username, true login page, error page, and password. But one of the parameter took my attention, which is called support token internal, as you can see from the name. So I back to support auth.aspx and I got the data that I use from the XSL files. And as you can see here, we have support token. At first, I thought the support token could be a long token or GW3 token or something random. So I tried a lot of method to bypass authentication. Nothing worked. So something just came to my mind. I know there is a demo account in that panel, and the username and password for that demo account is demo. But the problem was that this demo account have OTP or 2FA. So because I know the username, just a small idea why I didn't try the username at that parameter. I tried demo as value for support authentication, support token internal, and for my surprise, the demo of the username work and give us full authentication by pass. Now the picture is clear. The support agent to look into the panel and fix the user problem of the user account. So let's say that you are a user and you are user on that panel and you have an problem with your account. There is something mistake in your account, and for privacy, you don't want to share your password for that user agent. You're scared to share your password. So you will give the user agent your username, the support agent, you will give him your username, and he will use that endpoint with the support token internal using your username, and he will be able to log into your account without your password, and also he will bypass the 2FA of the OTP, which is an nice bug. We get 20,000 US dollar. Also, we have another title called Abusing ASP Net Session ID for Unauthorized Access, which is interesting topic. You will see how the ASP session ID sometimes it could use to bypass authentication. As you can see, first we have two important cookies in the ASP apps or IS apps. We have ASP path, which could lead to authentication bypass. Also, we have ASP net session ID, which could, for some cases, lead to directory listing exposure. How things work and how to exploit that bugs. We'll take a small example. For example, we have ASP apps that have ASP net session ID. So while you are fuzzing, you find a backup directory, and this backup directory it gives you 403 because the web config in that backup file have a rule or statement says deny users none. For example, any user don't define that app will give an anonymous deny and will give 403. But if we fuzz using ASP session ID, for example, X, we'll talk about how to get it, and we find the directory backup for will break that rule. Now we are not anonymous user, we are defined user because some apps, if you have random ASP session ID from the header ASP net session ID, it will define you as a guest user or video user or demo user, and will break the rule of the web config. Now we are not anonymous user anymore. Since we break the rule, we'll get the backup directory and we will get 200 response. As you can see here,